Hello, in this video we will talk a little about everything related to soldering. Soldering is a technological operation that allows you to connect metal parts with the help of binder. This binding material is called a solder and is metal or an alloy, the melting point of which is lower than the melting point of the parts. Soldering can be low temperature and high temperature. We will talk about first one, which is more suitable for radio hams. The main tool for this process is a soldering iron, and with it we'll begin. I will also tell my story. One day, many years ago, I wanted to learn how to solder, and I found out an old soldering iron. In fact, it was awful. It was heating for a long time, for several minutes, and after heating, the handpiece faded and the entire metal part started to hand out. Then it completely disconnected from it. Some time later, there was a such soldering iron with the name Epson 25, very comfortable in the hand. He had a copper string which was fixed with a screw. This soldering iron did not allow us to comfortably produce the ration. However, 25 watts were not enough. The soldering dissipated, but did not reach the required fluidity. Then it seemed to me that all this is due to the fact that I do not know how to solder. But the situation changed after the purchase of this soldering iron. It has become very easy to solder. The solder melts instantly, but 60 watts is too much. It is recommended not more than 40. I used it for 2 years. Not a single radio component has deteriorated, but it has damaged many circuit boards. Path and contact areas often flared from the high temperature. And now I will show my best and most convenient soldering iron, which I am using at the moment. All the devices that I showed on the channel before were combined with this soldering iron. It has a temperature adjustment from 200 to 450 degrees. I have to note an interesting hand grip through which we can see the control board. Temperature regulator is located successfully, and in the process of soldering I often use it. Since for soldering chips you need one temperature and for wires you need another temperature. First, let's look at the internal parts of soldering iron. In the classical case, everything is quite simple. There is a handle, a metal tube inside which is heating element. The soldering iron does not burn the burner, but despite this is not eternal. The coating is eventually deteriorated and then the solder gets a bluish shade. It's because the temperature is too high. We also do not know what kind of quality is material. In some cases, the sting does not differ from the usual nail. These screws sometimes detach during soldering and this is not comfortable. Let's extract the sting. We see a fairly long rod. On the handle there is a rubber insert, but in the process of work it often slips. Inside the grip, the cables connect to wires from the heater. Nichrome wires come from heater and they are insulated with the thin ceramic tubes. After unscrewing the protector, you can get out the heating element. Inside is a metal tube. You can save the cartridge in which the staple is inserted. A heat-resistant isolating material is laid in the circle of this tube. On it a nichrome spiral is wound. On the top again there is a layer of insulator, and this flue reliability pulls all these layers together. The sting is long enough, and if it is inserted all the way, it has a heat exchange with the whole internal cavity heating. If the sting is slightly removed, the heating temperature can be reduced. And now let's analyze another soldering iron. Its design looks much more modern. It is very easy to disassemble, and this makes it possible to quickly replace the sting. For example, you can put in another form. First, the nut is unscrewed, the metal case is removed after it. In general, heaters are of two types. Heater in soldering iron before used to have a nichrome heater, while a more expensive soldering iron can be found with a ceramic heater. The advantage is very fast heating and service life. Sellers claim that this soldering iron has a ceramic heater, and at first glance this is indeed the case. However, I will reveal you a secret. It is not ceramic, and this has already been mentioned in the detailed review of this soldering iron. If you are interested, you can see the link to the overview will be in the description under this video. In fact, there is a nichrome heater inside the ceramic tube, but there's nothing wrong with it. Everything works fine. Heaters and reversible steps can be pressed separately. As for the sting, it is not really overheated here. The tip has a special coating. Next to the network wire, there used to be a ground wire having a clamp at the end. It's passed inside the case and fixed here. Grounding serves to protect some elements from static electricity, mostly MOSFETs. In the same way, after the purchase, the network connection was replaced. In the majority of soldering tools have similar features, but different characteristics and reliability indicators. When choosing a soldering iron, it is worth to stop a power of 40 watts. If the soldering iron has a temperature regulator, you can take 60 watts. There are also other types of soldering irons. The pulsed ones are capable of heating instantly, but the design itself is heavy, and they also do not allow controlling the heating temperature. Also, there are gas soldering irons. They provide autonomy of work without electricity. The disadvantage of that they are not intended for fine work, and they are dangerous. For professional soldering and repairing of electronics, people use soldering stations. Such equipment allows you accurately control the heating temperature, and in combination with the fan, you can also produce air soldering. Of course, there are other examples. The next video will be about solder, fluxes, soldering techniques, tap-offs, and much more. Thanks for watching. Leave comments and subscribe the channel that would not miss the new releases.